Hello， 大家好，歡迎嚟到 Hi-Fi 發燒台，我係呢388。最近咧 Audioquest 咧就推出咗一個新嘅神進系列嘅信號線啊。咁佢哋個位國際銷售總監咧就嚟咗香港去介紹呢個新嘅系列。咁我都有上到去威達咧個陳列室咧去聽佢介紹。咁當日咧佢除咗話介紹呢個線材之外咧，佢亦都有提到咧佢哋嗰個 DBS 系統啊，即是話咧線材上嗰個電池盒啊。咁佢都好詳細咧講咗嗰個由來同埋咧嗰個電池盒嘅用途啊。咁我覺得咧呢個好值得同大家分享啊。如果大家有興趣咧，咁就冇人開，繼續睇落去啦。
DBS is a really interesting little design, which we can almost thank the Russians for this, because this was a product of Cold War technology. Our owner Bill, one of his friends is called Richard van der Steen, and he runs an American company called Van der Steen Loudspeakers. And years ago, back in the 1950s, 1960s, he was a sonar operator on an American submarine. And so with the sonar, they had to sit there and listen and try and hear other submarines far away. They're basically using radio waves to spy on, or sound waves to spy on people. And the sonar operators found if they biased the sonar array, if they ran a constant current through it, it dropped the noise floor and they could hear things further away. And when you're trying to track a Russian submarine full of nuclear missiles that might be ready to blow up your country, you really want to be able to hear where they are and track them down. So that was a really good concept they came up with. And years later, when he was designing loudspeakers, he thought, what would happen if I biased the crossover in a speaker? And so if you look at Van der Steen speakers, if you ever get a chance, you'll see that there's actually normally a battery pack or something electronic hooked up to the crossover array, and it runs a constant current through it and it drops the noise floor. And so, because Bill and Richard are friends, we started using this idea for cables. And the DBS system runs a constant current. It biases the dielectric, the insulation around the conductors. Because insulation around our conductors is, it could be polythene, it could be foam polythene, it could be Teflon. It can still conduct some electricity. And if you say, oh, plastic doesn't conduct electricity, then put your fingers in a plug socket wearing trainers, you will still get shocked because you'll be grounded through your plastic-soled shoes and you'll still get an electric shock. Plastic can conduct. It's not as conductive as metal, but it will still conduct a level of electricity. And what that means is, when we send our electrical signal, whether it's our power signal or our very weak RCA signal or our speaker cable signal, when we send that down our metal conductors, the insulation around those conductors is always absorbing a little bit of that charge. And then finally it becomes saturated. A lot of people talk about running cables in. You must play your cable for 30 hours before it sounds good. All you're doing is charging up the dielectric, the insulation. Once that insulation is saturated, it stops interfering with your signal path. However, the moment you stop playing music, it starts to discharge back into the conductor. So our insulation is always either taking something away or is adding in something that we don't want. So the DBS system runs a constant high voltage, 72 volts, but low current charge just through the insulation around the conductors. Now this DBS pack is different to the ones we made before. This has two little connections on it. Because we have, in here, the positive and the inverted positive are electrostatically isolated. So each one needs its own separate DBS feed. And these each connect to an anode and a cathode that run alongside that positive and that inverted positive. So we run a constant charge just through the insulation around the conductors. And the difference that makes is it drops the noise floor. We end up with a more open soundstage, a more three-dimensional sound. We can hear the details more clearly. It's like the difference between a full-range speaker and a bi-wireable speaker. It's separating everything out.